I'm Misty.
And I'm Ike.
For the next 15 minutes,
We're going to debate pop culture.
my background's in music.
My background's in film.
I know the topics beforehand.
And I don't.
We check the internet for the facts,
And ruin it with opinions.
from pop rocks in your lunchbox.
To Happy Meal toys and swatch clocks. Good morning, everybody.
Hi.
Good morning, Misty.
Good morning, Isaac.
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Nick. Wait. Oh, yeah. That worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
He does that every day.
Yeah. Okay.
This is the last day of Nick's week-long
It is.
Misty and Ike and Nick Ruin the Internet.
It is. It's the last day of Nick being with us.
Yeah. How long are you in town for?
Just today.
Got it.
I haven't been here the last 4 days. I just here today.
Just this Friday.
Yeah.
TGIF.
Yeah. What do you want to do today?
I want to ruin the internet
Cool.
with you guys.
Awesome.
How are we gonna do it?
That's what we're here for.
So we've talked a little bit about a bunch of different stuff, but we haven't talked about TV shows. I'm thinking teenage-centric TV shows.
Ooh.
I am
Teen Bop stuff?
I am still a teenage girl at heart. So this is very exciting to me.
Well, let's talk about teenage hearts for 15 minutes.
Okay.
Starting meow.
All right.
You might as well start this one off because you probably got a ton of them. Right?
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm just going to throw this out there. Like, the one thing that from my teen years, there are two things that, like, just ruled my world. My So-Called Life
Yeah.
with Claire Danes and Jared Leto.
Okay.
Yep.
And Daria, which was like, she was a
Wow.
cartoon.
Yeah.
You know, it was like what girls watched instead of Beavis and Butthead, because that's what boys watched.
Yep.
So we watched Daria. See, you can still do it. But like, Daria was this teenage girl, and she was angry, and she hated everyone, and everyone was stupid. And like, everything in the world was stupid, and she was a lot smarter than everyone else. So very similar to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I gotta go with.
Those were my like teen years favorites.
I gotta do Saved by the Bell.
Ooh,
There's 2 flies in here now.
there are probably more than that.
They're multiplying as the week goes by.
That's what flies do, right? They're like rabbits.
Yeah. Teen shows. Are we doing a specific era?
No, I don't think so. I think like what some of the best in, in the since we were teenagers have been.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, I'm going to throw out Gossip Girl and the OC. The OC was very pivotal to me because
OC was a big one for me.
I
liked
watched
that show.
it was definitely on TV like right before I moved out here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just remember like, between my like 80s hair metal obsession and then the OC, my impression of Los Angeles or California fell somewhere in between in the middle of that.
Which is true, basically.
My junior high years, I was
those.
very, very into like 80s hair metal and that entire like, I want to go and see what the Sunset Strip looks like and blah, blah, blah. And then you've got, down south.
You can find both of those things in LA if you're looking for them.
Absolutely.
Both of those worlds exist.
And like we talked about in one of our other episodes, I think every person in the world during that era that moved out here as they were driving in their car played Phantom Planet California, the theme song to the OC.
That's the theme of this week, too.
Yeah, as they were rolling into Los Angeles for their first time.
I don't know who it was, but the music supervisor on that show was incredible. Like
Absolutely.
whoever made all the decisions on all of that.
Yeah.
It became a pop culture show because they were intertwining so much reality into it.
Nick, do you know that that's my dream gig?
Music supervisor for the OC.
The music supervisor for TV and movies. That would be like end all be all end game, like my ultimate gig.
That's so funny that you have like 100 billion people's actual dream job and you have a separate dream job.
But everybody does, I mean, I think back to movies and TV shows, and some of the most pivotal music that I've hung onto in my life has come from movie soundtracks and TV show soundtracks.
Yeah.
And when you take a minute and you stop and think about the importance of that music being timed up with a specific scene and how that scene would mean nothing if it weren't for that exact music.
And the OC was great at that.
So good. Yep. I want to say that maybe it was, I think for some reason I thought it was Snuffy Walden, but I think he was the guy that was like all of the teen shows before that era, like Felicity and...
Yeah. Because they were using a lot of like that was there were a lot of people that got their first chances on all kinds of things within the OC. That show.
Alexandra Patsavis she was the music supervisor for the Twilight Saga, the OC, Grey's Anatomy, and Gossip Girl. That woman discovered some bands.
You need to have her on your podcast.
I do. Hey, Alex, you want to come be on my podcast? Be on my podcast.
All right, so what other shows? Isaac, what you said Saved by the Bell. That's a
but
classic.
I'm changing it.
That's a classic.
Changing it. My favorite?
Yeah, your absolute favorite.
Freaks and Geeks.
That's good.
Oh, Be Still My College Heart. That was that era.
Yep.
First time I ever saw Jason Segel, and I was like, that guy's going to be awesome. Like, he's going to grow up cool.
Yeah. How about Party of Five?
That's when I first truly fell in love with Neve Campbell.
Yeah. And you can't talk.
And that carried over into Scream.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course.
And you can't even have this conversation without 90210.
Yeah. You know what's really weird? I was super turned off by 90210 because my mom liked it.
Oh,
my mom watched it, and I was like, I'm not going to watch that if my mom thinks it's cool. Yeah. No way.
Sweet Valley High, 94.
That was...
We should have talked about that yesterday.
I think that I was a little too cool to be sitting at home and watching TV by then. I'd moved past that.
I was just Googling 90s stuff, but for me, it was with the North Carolina connection, and maybe that has a little bit to do with Nick, Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I didn't watch it. I watched the one after it.
One Tree Hill.
One Tree Hill, which everybody we've ever met in North Carolina has been on that show.
Right.
Yeah,
They would have bands play.
Explain that again. You and Nick grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina.
No,
but I did. I lived in Wilmington while they were filming One Tree Hill for a year.
Okay.
Were you on it?
No, but I saw a lot of
But
stuff being filmed.
you guys grew up in that area.
We grew up in North Carolina. I was an hour and a half away.
Yeah, we grew up close enough to go to the beach when we
And
were
that's where they filmed
Yes.
Dawson's Creek
And
One Tree Hill.
in that era, when no matter what part of the state that you lived in, if you were in a band, you were desperately trying to be the backup band in the show. Because every time they went to that bar that they weren't old enough to get into, one of our friends, it was usually the Gosson brothers. But yeah, they were in that show a lot.
Let's see. Okay, so
Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Corey Nemec. I still remember that guy's name. That show was so great.
Yeah.
So great.
Remember Hanging with Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
I do remember
Dude.
That was a part.
Cooper.
Hanging with Mr. Cooper was a part of the TGIF lineup.
Yeah, it was.
Now that we're
Full
on Friday's
House.
episode here.
Yeah, TGIF.
Oh, I have a whole episode planned
For
to
just
really dig into the TGIF.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So let's.
But what was TGIF called before it was TGIF? Is that something we talk about on the next episode too?
We kind of talk about the evolution of it.
All right, okay.
But there were some good ones on that. But those were more family oriented shows.
Yeah.
Boy Meets World.
Okay, let me ask a question real quick. So, a lot of the shows that are on now, seem to me like obviously teenagers are growing up a lot quicker than we did.
Yes.
Or they're not hiding it as well as we did, maybe? Well, I was pretty good at hiding all the shit that I was doing.
Sure. But as far as television goes, standards and practices in the 90s were way different.
Right.
Couldn't
So, now, you think about some of the teen shows like 13 Reasons Why and Euphoria, and they're very graphic and deal with subject matter that is a lot more forward-leaning than what we did.
Yeah.
I think back to some of the teen shows that we watched, and I think back to the absolute biggest controversy in the world when I, in my late teens, as I went to college, Felicity was a huge show.
Yeah.
Do you remember when she cut her hair?
Oh, everybody was so weird about that.
The world literally stopped.
Yeah.
The beginning of season 2, she had this long, beautiful curly hair, and she cut her hair, and you would have thought that as a teen actor, she had done the absolute worst thing, the worst sin ever to be committed. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is that now, in hindsight, I've listened to a couple of podcasts that she's been on, and she talks about how that was all planned out with the producers ahead of time.
Oh, wow.
They actually asked her to do it.
Yeah.
Filmed the whole thing.
Whoa.
But now, I'm like, oh. But yet on 13 Reasons Why, we can have graphic scenes of a young man in a bathroom of a high school being assaulted, raped, essentially, with a broomstick.
Well, I'm not watching that show now.
13 Reasons Why is a hugely it's based on a book. It's
I guess
it's heavy.
Is the greater question, it's the chicken and egg, right? Are the kids today more advanced because of the culture they're consuming and the stuff that they're being exposed to, or is it the other way around?
Yeah.
Were we more innocent kids because we just didn't have access to pornography in our pocket 24/7?
Right.
Not that I look at pornography ever.
Isaac watches porn.
In fact, I gotta go.
But I mean, I feel like that's a really legitimate question. Like,
that actually sounds like the title of a sitcom that would come out now.
What? I gotta go.
Isaac watches porn.
Isaac watches porn. Exactly. Yeah. What's the movie? Zach and Miri make a porn?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And they don't.
Super funny.
Yeah, it's a really good movie.
It's actually a great movie. I don't know. I started as I sit here and I go through this list, I'm looking at, I'm like, oh, okay, you've got Riverdale, which is super campy and based on the Archie comics, but yet there are some pretty dark things in that as well. And Euphoria is on the list. I mean, essentially the main character is a drug addict that's fresh out of rehab, and all the people in her life that are battling addictions, and
that's a tough show.
I do feel like. I mean, this show didn't last long, but you had mentioned it earlier. My So-Called Life got into some heavier stuff.
It did actually.
Yeah, that was a legit dark.
It only lasted one season.
Teen drama,
and I wonder why.
Right.
Is that the reason why? Because it was a show that adults couldn't watch it because they didn't understand. They would look at her and be like, "What's wrong with that girl?" But yet I would watch it and be like, oh my God, I understand exactly how she feels in that moment. That insecurity and that
It's also the first show I remember seeing one of the main characters was
gay
gay.
character.
Yeah.
Wilson Cruz.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still an actor.
Is he still gay?
He is still gay. Yeah.
Oh, we should do a whole episode on straight actors that play gay parts. Nope. Okay.
I don't feel strongly about that right now.
Great.
We can. We'll talk about that later.
That's a good way of playing until I forget about it and then never bringing it up again.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I just I still very much enjoy watching teen dramas. Maybe it's because I, never grew up out of that era. But I have definitely noticed a lot of them that I watch Pretty Little Liars, that just went off the air 2 years ago. It dealt with.
And then came back for a hot second.
Right.
Shout out Lucy Hale. What's up?
I mean, it dealt with a lot of really, really, really dark things that I can't ever imagine any of the show, like Dawson's Creek.
No.
Dawson's Creek touched on some things like losing your virginity.
Yep. Ooh.
Well, by the time we were watching Dawson's Creek, we'd all lost our virginity already. Right. Come on.
What are y'all doing?
What are y'all waiting on?
Especially in North Carolina, there's nothing to do.
Right. You drive around, you drink out of a keg on a country road.
For $5.
Country cruising.
In a place that everyone calls the spot.
Right. Hey, you gonna meet me at the corner?
It's such a secret.
Yeah, it's the spot.
The cops know exactly where it is.
You know what I can't figure out? I was thinking about this the other day because we had a multitude of different places. And whoever got there first, that was who decided where everybody was hanging that night. But they were all literally out in the middle of the country. We didn't have cell phones. How do we communicate to each other which spot we were going to?
Everyone called. It was what are they called? A phone tree?
Yep.
Everyone would call the other couple people they wanted to make sure were there.
I remember getting that call, but I always remember being at the party.
We would
also all meet at the Sonic, and word would spread at the Sonic.
Right.
Yeah. Or one person would stay behind, and then people would show
American
up.
Graffiti.
Yeah, you would take turns and be like, "What's that's
tell
the spot."
Everybody.
Or somebody would have their own line. I had my own line in my bedroom.
Right.
I had an answering machine, so I would leave a message where the spot was, and then you would call my number, and I would put it on.
That's fancy.
That is fancy.
It's kind of think about Dazed and Confused, the movie. How they all knew that those parties were happening. Right? They all knew those parties were happening because they talked about it all day at school.
Yeah, they passed notes.
But most of ours were on Saturdays because Fridays we'd have the football games or the basketball games. Which, by the way, you guys will laugh when I say this. I was a cheerleader. I also was the cheerleader that had the most demerits. Because instead of going home and changing out of my cheerleading uniform before I went to the party, I'll just go straight to the party.
Oh, yeah.
And every fucking Monday morning, my cheerleading sponsor, Misty, I need you to come to my office. You get 4 demerits for wearing your cheerleading uniform to the party on Friday night.
How did she even know?
Somebody would narc me out.
Yo, hey, whoever you are that's probably watching right now, because you've been a hater of Misty for your whole life.
Probably.
Yo, you could S the whole bag of dicks, bro.
You know what? A kid that tells on another kid is a kid that gets stitches.
You're going to catch some. When we tore through wherever she grew up, don't come to the show. Or if you do, you better show up in a cheerleading outfit.
Right, so I can give you demerits.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up? Was it Kentucky or Kansas?
Kansas.
That's
Ottawa, Kansas was where I went to high school.
You should definitely just say Ottawa.
Yeah, it's cooler. People think you're Canadian.
Have you ever been to Ottawa?
Neither one of them.
No.
Okay, then you don't really get to speak on that, and I can tell you neither of them are all that cool. Yeah, so a little trip back to high school there.
Yeah.
With some fun high school shows. What else did you watch? You had to watch something else besides Beavis and Butthead and Saved by the Bell.
I watched way too much Baywatch for all the right reasons.
You know what? Not necessarily a high school show, but it had younger kids on it.
Bruh,
and they had
if you're between the ages of 13 and 18 and Baywatch is the only thing, there's no internet, it's the perfect thing for young boys. But since this alarm's about to go off, we've been recording for 16 minutes.
Oh.
And it's going off in 3, 2, 1.
All right.
Leave us a comment in the comment section and tell us what your favorite teen shit show was. Teen shit show. That should be the name of this.
That's going to be the name of this episode. Teen shit shows.
Well, let's give a special shout out to Nick Pyatt. Do you want your IG out there?
Nah, it doesn't matter. Whatever.
Okay.
I don't
care. Special thanks to Nick for coming this week. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there, Misty.
That's okay, go ahead.
And it is Friday, so
thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming. And since it is Friday, we'll see you next week. Thanks for playing. You want to try it with
you
me?
You were talking so fast, I didn't know that you were going to do it that quickly.
Okay, let's do it together. Since it's because it's Friday.
Because it's Friday.
We'll see you on Monday.
We're going to see you all on Monday.